All right, let's get started.
Welcome to Roadmap to Retirement. Tune in for financial tips, investment strategies, and smart money moves to supercharge your retirement savings. Alex Neri, CFP, and guests are here to help you build your roadmap to retirement.
Marshall, welcome back. This is your third appearance with us.
Yeah, no, and like I said, this is going to become a regular thing, and it has, so I could not be any happier about this.
We're not perfect, but every 10-ish episodes.
10-ish episodes. Yeah, like when we get enough questions in the hopper, we gotta get the questions answered.
Yeah, the people deserve answers, so this is good.
Exactly.
For those of you that are new to this or you haven't heard Marshall on before, he's been coming on every 10-ish episodes to do a little Q&A. We've got some great feedback from listeners, so we're going to go through some of those questions and hopefully get them answered.
Yeah, no, perfect. We have a great mix. I was just looking them over before the show started here. Let's start off with everyone's favorite topic.
Sure.
This question is pretty good. How do I prioritize which type of insurance? Because in that episode with Amanda, I know you talked about quite a few different types. So I think this person just wants to know maybe how can they prioritize what they should cover first.
Sure. Yeah, this is I think
tough to answer, but
it is tough to answer. And I think that if you're somebody that buys into every single type of insurance that can be sold, you're going to spend a crazy amount of money on insurance, and maybe that's counterproductive. So I guess I would think of prioritizing them as what's the order of ones that can ruin my financial life the quickest, and maybe those are the most important. For example, we talked about life insurance on the episode with Amanda. In a God forbid scenario, if you get hit by a bus tomorrow and you've got 5 young kids at home, then I would say life insurance is extremely important. And maybe pet insurance is not as important. Pet insurance is probably almost always not the most important. But then hypothetically, if you're somebody that has 0 kids and you have no mortgage and you have no one depending on you, maybe life insurance is not as important as it otherwise would be. So I think you got to prioritize it that way. I think disability insurance is often overlooked. People don't typically picture, we talk about this a lot with Amanda on that episode, but people don't picture a world where they're disabled. People have an easier time wrapping their head around being dead. Isn't entirely fair. I don't know if that's an answer to your question, but I think to prioritize all the kinds of insurance that exists out there, you have to start with the ones that you're legally required to have. So you have to have homeowners insurance if you own a home. You need to have auto insurance if you're going to drive a car. So you need to have those. Then after that, I think it's some combination of health insurance, life insurance, and disability insurance, depending on who's relying on you. Some are more important than others. Health insurance, I guess, is a different category. But
yeah, generally that's going to be covered by an employer, hopefully, anyway. But yeah, all these things are important. And actually, that's a really good segue into the next one here, because this time of year, it seems like this time of year, everyone's kind of concerned about open enrollment. It's on people's minds if that's something they deal with. So for open enrollment, we just talked about the insurance thing a little bit, so maybe we can talk to if you have trouble getting private life insurance, for example, that might make open enrollment really important for you, trying to maximize your employer life insurance for one reason or another. But then also, how do I choose between a high deductible health plan and a copay plan? What factors are we considering there?
Sure. So for people that are unfamiliar, a high deductible plan is a health insurance option where, like the name sounds, you have a high deductible. So a lot of things are not
lower
covered. Lower premium. So that's a trade-off. Is the insurance company's going to pay for less of these small stuff, and in exchange for that, you get a lower premium. So the general strategy is if you are a healthy person or someone that doesn't visit doctors very often, doesn't have a lot of medical expenses, it's probably advantageous to take the high deductible plan. Keep your fingers crossed that nothing bad happens. And if something does happen, you do still have the insurance in place. You're just going to have a higher deductible to meet before the insurance policy kicks in. And with that, you get to have access to one of our favorite tools, which is the HSA account. So the HSA account allows you to save money pre-tax into the account. Money can be invested once it's in there. It grows tax-free. And as long as you use it for a qualifying medical expense, it comes out tax-free also, which makes it my favorite instrument that's often overlooked. I think every single, I don't know, how broad do I want to go? Every single American that has an HSA plan available to them, which would be part of a high deductible plan, should be putting the maximum into that if they can afford to do it. And I know it's a big if for a lot of people, but I might even prioritize it over a 401k or Roth IRA because of the tax treatment.
Yep. And medical expenses, if you don't have them right now, you probably will, right? So at some point, that's going to come into play, and that's going to be a huge benefit.
I think a lot of young people like to act as if they're always going to be healthy.
Yeah.
Hopefully they are, but the reality is most people have some kind of health situation at some point in their life. So having extra money in an HSA is probably not going to hurt you.
Yeah, and something I see a lot too, especially for risk-averse people, they maybe take that too literally, right? Where they say, I don't want to get away from my copay plan because, yeah, I'm paying a bunch for it, but I feel better knowing that if something, God forbid, were to happen, I'm going to get a lot of help from the insurance company. One strategy I like to talk to with people for getting them on that high deductible health plan, not that I'm pushing it, but if that's something that maybe they can handle to get access to an HSA, just make sure you have that deductible set aside as an emergency fund or kind of in addition to your emergency fund. Then that takes a lot of the worry away, I think, just because if something did, God forbid, happen, you had those high deductibles covered.
Yeah, no, you definitely want to have your emergency fund, and the HSA can be part of that. If your deductible is whatever, $6,500, maybe you should have $6,500 somewhere to meet that.
Right, exactly. And then a lot of employers will give you something for the HSA too. So it's all things to consider for sure. Another one, how do I prioritize paying off debt versus savings?
Yeah, I
love this question.
Yeah, I think we've covered that a few times, but we'll go back into it because it's a big question. And we run into this all the time with people that have student loan debt's a good example. And they're early in their career, maybe not even that early anymore, but they still have student loan debt out there. And it's, am I better off taking an extra $100 every month and putting it towards my student loan, or should I take that extra $100 a month and put it towards anything else? It could be their Roth IRA, it could be their 401k, it could just be a savings account. And I think that this is something I've evolved on. I think earlier in my career, I would have said, let's look at the interest rates. If you're paying 4% on your student loans and we think we can get a 7% rate of return somewhere else, and there's a 3% spread there, so it makes sense to put money into the thing that gets a better rate of return than the interest you're paying. I think I've evolved in this by saying that although that's still true, that's like the spreadsheet math, that's what the spreadsheet tells you to do, there's a behavioral aspect of that and what motivates you more. A lot of people really hate their student loans, and if they're sitting around on a Friday night and they're thinking about going out to dinner, going out with their friends and spending a bunch of money, a lot of times the thought of putting that money towards the student loan will motivate them to make different decisions with their money. And if that's true, then everything I said before about the rate of return and the interest rate and all that kind of goes out the window, because most people aren't going to skip going out on a Friday night so that they can retire in 40 years. That's just not motivating.
Yeah.
But it might be motivating to say, if I skip going out on this Friday night, I can put extra money towards my student loans and I can get rid of that. And that's a more shorter term goal that seems more real. So spreadsheet math says probably put money into savings. Behavioral finance, we'll call it, might suggest otherwise.
Yeah. The no-brainers are obviously when it's high interest debt, right? When it's something like a credit card that's eaten away.
If you're paying 24% interest, it's a very different conversation. But when you're talking about,
you can give them the choice a little bit more.
Yeah, single digit interest rates in one way or another, then probably doesn't matter.
Yep. Yeah. And like the satisfaction is just so much more there when you're looking at something like a student loan, for example. So that might factor into. Okay, cool. Good. Yeah, that question we get all the time. Good work.
Thanks.
All right. Medicare. Okay. When should I enroll in Medicare, and what happens if I don't do it?
Okay. Skip the don't do it. You should do it. I don't know why you wouldn't do it, but just so you know.
On time.
So you can register for Medicare up to 3 months ahead of the month in which you turn 65. So there's a 7-month window around your 65th birthday, including the month that you turn 65 in the middle, and then 3 months on each side of that. I am team do it as soon as you can and get it over with. So in that 3 month before your birthday, go ahead and do that. If you don't do that, you have a 10% penalty on your Medicare premiums for life, which is crazy to think about. That it's not a 1 year thing.
That's a punishment.
It's a lifelong punishment. So definitely do that on time. And I think where people get caught up a little bit with it is if they're on an employer sponsored plan. So if you're 65, you're still working, you can choose to stay on your employer sponsored plan as a Medicare Part B replacement, as long as it's deemed an equivalent coverage, which usually in New York State they are. I haven't seen a lot where they're not. So that person might want to stay on their employer plan, save money by doing that. But it's important that when they retire or leave that job, they, in a timely manner, switch over to Medicare and avoid that.
But they still have to enroll.
They still need to enroll.
Got it.
So definitely do that.
Cool.
Good questions, everybody.
That was a good one. I hate the Medicare questions, though.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot to know, but it's also just it's not fun.
It's important. It's really
important, but not fun.
Really important.
A lot of what we do is important, but not fun.
Yeah. End of the year coming up, crazy. We're in the fourth quarter, but what should I be focusing on for the end of the year?
It depends who you are. I don't know who submitted that question, but give me more information.
That is vague.
Things that we're helping our clients with right now.
What are you paying attention to?
What are we paying attention to? In the fourth quarters, when we're thinking about things that have a December 31st deadline. So there's some things that we do from an investment and tax standpoint that is an April 15th deadline, so the tax deadline. A lot of them, though, are December 31st. Examples of that would be if you have non-qualified or non-retirement accounts that have investments in it, you should be thinking about doing tax loss harvesting. So that means selling things that have a loss to offset things that have a gain. So there's tax benefit to that, and that needs to be done before December 31st. Also, things like Roth conversions. So I won't get into a ton of detail on this because I think I've talked about it 100 times before. But if you are going to do a Roth conversion, which is taking money from a pre-tax account and converting it to a Roth account, the deadline for that is December 31st. So I'm going through that with my clients right now because I don't want me or the client to be stressed and running around trying to figure this out that week between Christmas and New Year's. So we'd like to get it done by middle November or so it's buttoned up. But I think that's a big one.
That's coming up.
That is coming up. What else am I missing?
I think that's pretty good. It is. It's so unique to certain people, right? So
we also get a lot of retirees that they're retiring January 1st. So you have a lot of people that are kind of putting in the last couple of months of work right now. So they have other consideration, whether it's maxing out their 401k while they're still working, whether it's just preparing for retirement in general.
Yep.
I think there's a lot to that.
Yeah. I think a lot of the planning for people who aren't exactly maybe getting ready to retire or whatever, maybe this time of year is usually when they're maxing out their account where they might find a little bit more in their paycheck just because they already hit the limit or something like that. Making sure that we're being efficient with that extra cash flow, I think is something really important, especially that happens in the last couple of months generally. Sometimes when you run into it, they max out their account in April and you got much longer time horizon or much more time to plan.
Sure.
But
I guess the other thing we get into is people start to think about their New Year's resolution, which here's an idea. Don't wait until January 1st. If you think you can do better,
I love that. I don't know if you've said this or someone said this, but when January 1st comes, my New Year's resolution is I'm going to stop procrastinating. That's just like the best line ever.
Classic.
And it's just, especially with money, fitness, whatever you're talking about.
I'm going to stop procrastinating. I'm going to wait
do it now and get some runway up until January 1st. And then when you're doing your New Year's resolution, you've already got some runway. So that's funny. That's good. Anything else? Want to add to that?
I don't know. I think New Year's
there's a lot.
You can spend a lot of money on Christmas gifts if you want to. Maybe don't do that, or
right now I guess
do what you want to do.
Make sure you got the money set aside if that's something you're doing. But I don't know. There's a lot that you can be focusing on. Okay, do I need a 529 plan, and what would be a good alternative?
Do I need a 529 plan? Oh, before that, we left off RMDs. So if you're taking a required minimum distribution for the year, you should probably do that. But anyway,
I like to think that those, back to that really quick, I know we're jumping, but I like to think that's more something that's been planned all year because you get the RMD number like.
You'd hope so.
You get it like, what you're working off of December 31st of the last year. So you've got a long time to plan on that. So maybe that's why we forgot that one.
Yeah, hopefully we have a plan. But
anyways, 529, what would be a good alternative if I don't need a 529?
If you don't need or don't want.
Do I need a 529? I'm just going, do I need a 529 plan? And what is a good alternative?
Okay. So this question could come from two different types of people. It could be from people that don't have kids. So let's assume they have kids. Okay, because
I've never been asked about a 529 plan with someone who didn't have kids or was planning on having a kid.
Usually people plan to have kids that want to set it aside, and you have to explain to them that they need to wait until they actually have a kid because we need a social and whatever. Okay, so we're going to assume that the person asking this question does have a child, wants to save for college,
a live baby,
and they're not sure if the 529 is for them.
Yeah.
So the thing we hear a lot with this is people that they think, okay, if I'm going to earmark this money for college, what if my kid doesn't go to college? And there's actually a lot more flexibility with this. So right off the bat, I might answer that question different than I would have 5 years ago because there are options where they can have that 529 plan roll into a Roth IRA. They can do different stuff with it. So I wouldn't shy away from the 529 plan as much as I might have before. That being said, if we still don't want a 529 plan, your alternatives could be using a Roth IRA, which there's a couple different stipulations of when you can take money out penalty-free. One of them is for higher education costs.
Mm-hmm.
So a parent could save into their own Roth IRA with the idea that some of that money will be used for their child's college down the road. The problem with that is you probably should be saving into a Roth IRA anyway for your own retirement. It's not necessarily extra savings. It's just using some of the existing savings.
Yep.
Maybe. So other options, you could do a non-qualified account. So you could set up just a non-retirement, non-tax advantaged account, save money into that. You could do it a bunch of different ways, but you could there's certain kinds of accounts where the child can gain access and ownership over the account at 18 or 21, depending on how you do it. So you could do that. I think that I don't want to push the 529 plan, but one of the nice things about it is it's tied to a beneficiary who can be changed, the child. it's very easy for grandparents, aunts, uncles, whoever to make contributions. So if you're somebody that rather than buying a toy for your niece or nephew at Christmas, you want to give them a check for $100, you can do that and have it go into the 529 account. But alternatives mainly would be a Roth IRA or some kind of non-qualified account.
Yep. No, I like that. And one thing I also do let people know of when they're contemplating this type of thing is obviously, I know you've said this on an episode before, but you got to take care of yourself first. So if you don't have the extra money to do it, then let's just hold off for now. But to the flexibility standpoint, worst case scenario, this child doesn't go to college, they do want to use the money. It's not a huge penalty either. There is a penalty to it, but it's not like it's killer.
Yeah, and back to the Roth point too. I might say that if you're not already maxing out a Roth IRA for yourself, you're not in a position to save for college.
Right. That Roth IRA is so valuable. That tax-free growth is so valuable for yourself. You don't probably want to earmark that for your kid's college, but it is an option.
It's also the contribution limit's still low enough. Like you can contribute up to $7,000 to a Roth IRA. It's not a huge dollar amount. Like,
no, it's manageable.
It's manageable. You should be able to do it. It's a car payment.
Yeah, maybe not.
Depending on your car.
If you can do it, then yeah, that's probably more valuable for yourself than for
But that's what I mean. If you can't do it, then you probably also can't do a 529 plan.
That's fair. Okay, cool. We have a political question.
Oh, good. Those are fun.
I know by the time this episode's out, the election will be on our heels, very close. Who should I be hoping for to win?
Stop. That's not a real question.
Who should I be hoping wins for my portfolio?
Okay. Go back and listen to our episode with Ashley Sullivan. And let's get political. We get this question a lot. Every election year is the same. It's if this happens, what's going to happen to my portfolio? I have been beating the drum for it doesn't matter. And I'm not saying that you can't have reasons that you prefer one candidate over the other. I'm not saying that voting doesn't matter. You should vote. That's a great thing to do.
Specifically, though, for maybe your portfolio.
For your portfolio.
Probably doesn't matter as much.
There's all kinds of graphs that show if a Democrat wins, Republican wins, this and this, and they all boil down to it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
And every single election cycle that you look at, there's so many other factors out there. It's not as simple as saying, team red won, now my portfolio went up, team blue won. You can't tie it to that. Are there real policies that could affect how our stock market performs? Will any of them necessarily get through all three branches of our government? I don't know. So I wouldn't get too caught up in what happens next. No matter who wins, we're going to be okay. We're going to do it all over again in 4 years. So
yeah,
buckle up.
Yeah, generally market volatility is going to come regardless. So it is what it is. It's, I don't know, as you said, long-term goals, long-term money, you don't have to really too much worry about what happens in the election.
Yeah, part of investing is the volatility. If you can't handle the volatility, then great alternative, but you just have to learn how to handle that. Otherwise, you're not going to invest. And if you're not invested, you're not going to grow your assets. If you don't grow your assets, you're never going to keep up with inflation. Like it just goes on and on.
Yeah.
Learn to stomach the volatility.
Exactly.
No matter who wins.
Whoever wins, I hope they do a good job.
Yeah, I hope they do great.
They do a great job. I'm sure they will.
We all agree to just stop watching the news and be happier.
I can't wait. But okay, cool. Yeah, that's all I had. Anything else?
That's it?
Yeah, that's all the questions I had, actually. Okay. There was a lot of redundant questions. So
yeah, we do get some repeats.
I'm glad we answered them.
But nothing wrong with repeats. I don't expect everybody to listen to every episode. So.
The one I had the last couple episodes, good happened lately? Any big successes that you want to talk about?
Any big successes?
Yeah, I know we're getting really close to the year, so I know you talked about a couple of people retiring last time, but I'm sure that's happening more.
I think we talked about Roth conversions a few minutes ago here. I think I've run into or had a couple conversations with either clients or prospective clients who are in a great situation to do a Roth conversion. So that would mean if their income is lower than it normally is, if they're in a low tax bracket, there's a lot of opportunity for people to convert at the 12% bracket and hopefully not pay taxes down the road, which I think is definitely a win. So I'd say
it's powerful.
There's always some of that this time of year, which is great. So it's good to see those people making better decisions.
Yeah, those are nice, especially too when they come to you and they know what's coming because they're just used to this every year now.
Yeah, I think
that's significant.
So we have people who had the same conversation with every year, and they get it, they understand. I do a lot of educational events, so similar to this podcast, I do presentations in person. And a lot of times, one of the cool things from my end is by the time I'm done with the presentation, people that have questions are now educated on the topic.
Yeah.
So they can almost tell me, hey, I think I need to do this. And then I look it over with them.
And they're asking good questions, which means they actually understand what they're talking
educated
about.
questions.
Awesome. So that's great. Keep that up, Alex.
Thanks, Marshall. Thanks for being here.
I'll see you in 10-ish episodes, right?
Yeah, we'll see you in 10 episodes.
All right, awesome.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. This commentary reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of Alexander Neri. It does not necessarily represent those of RFG Advisory, their clients, or their employees. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by Alexander Neri or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, a registered investment advisor. Alexander Neri and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.